Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Silvio Martínez.
Thank you very much, Silvio Marchetti and Rodrigo Troncoso, who will stay here for any questions you may have. I now have questions for Sarah. The first question is the following one. What percentage of the beef produced in Australia comes from grass-fed animals, and how much comes from feedlot animals?
Is it on? Sorry, I had to wait for the translation to come through. Grass-fed production would probably represent about 60% of our beef production. At the moment, we've actually got record numbers of cattle in feedlots because we're going through a really significant drought. Supplementary feed has become very expensive for grass-fed producers, so we're seeing a lot of young cattle, rather than getting finished on grass, they're going into feedlots. So that is growing as well. And we've got great demands as well for our grain-fed beef, especially into Japan and Korea.
Okay. ¿Qué rol han jugado también?
This is another question for you. Which is the role of the commercial brands of exporting companies to take ownership of the benefits of the grading system existing in Australia? I will repeat it. Which is the role of the brands of beef exporting companies to take ownership of the benefits of the Australian grading system?
So Meat and Livestock Australia, we don't determine any pricing or anything like that. The brand owners actually are in full control of the benefits they receive from using the grading system. They have to pay to use the grading system. They have to pay for training. So it's actually up to them on how they use the information to segregate their brands. And we're seeing the brand owners that are doing a great job are not just creating a nice story and a nice colourful artwork on their box of beef. They're actually segregating their different brands by their quality levels as well. Becoming really quite sophisticated, the brand owners.
Thanks.
This is a question for Silvio Marchetti. Only 28 or 30% of the slaughter uses cold chambers. How much will it take for all the other meat packers to adjust? Could you repeat this? Please, only 28 or 30% of slaughterhouses use cold storage. How much will it take for the remaining meat packers to adjust to this or to take up this method? Well, I don't know who has asked this question, but the question is clear. I will try and answer it. If the question is, how do we get all the meat packers in Argentina to work so that we can make this measurement? Well, we should work with the industry.
Lo que estamos planteando es...
Today, we are defining a system that will improve the whole chain, and we haven't defined this yet. We haven't defined this code, whether it will be mandatory or not. In Australia, it's a voluntary system, so this is a time when the industry as a whole, the whole chain, has to discuss these issues to define what we want to achieve and how we can get there. You know, the two questions are related. We are not going to make it mandatory for all meatpacking companies to have cold storage to have cold storage and make it mandatory for everybody. No, this is not our goal. This is our first document, the first step. We will move forward along these lines, the lines of quality. And this is the discussion. So your question is very interesting, but this has to be discussed. What is mandatory, what is voluntary. We shouldn't make the process of calling mandatory based on quality. We should discuss this together, but it's important because we will discuss it and make it mandatory or not, because it's important for some reason or other. the idea is that this is a technical issue, and after that we should talk about how we could market the product. So 30% of the meat packers are already using this approach. 30% on a voluntary basis want to do this. The producers who want to get information because it's going to add information to them. So producers will sell to some meat packers or not because it's more, because they will get more benefit. Well, we don't know. We believe the best thing is to have a voluntary system because producers will know who to sell to because they will be paid better. And some meat packers will be able or will be willing to pay for it for a better quality, and farmers will sell to them. And this is a question for Argentina and Australia. And it has two parts. The first one, are consumers interested in the nutritional and nutraceutical value of beef?
Yeah, absolutely. In Australia, there's been a change that when we do our consumer surveys, consumers are indicating that they are not buying as much beef because of health concerns. We have a declining consumption of beef in Australia. We're trying to, I guess, address that through having the eating quality grading system. We're finding that they are reducing their consumption, but they're paying more for it. So the value of beef hasn't dropped, but their consumption has. A way that we're addressing that is through MLA. We work really closely with dietitians and advisors on nutrition to provide them with information around incorporating red meat into a balanced diet and really trying to stabilise the declining consumption. We don't think we'll make it go up again drastically, but we definitely want to stabilise it. We have consumer groups that are concerned about the animal welfare, sustainability of beef as well. So we also run quite strategic communication campaigns that are telling the stories of producers and the great job that farmers do and how they do think about animal welfare and sustainability. And it's like almost giving consumers permission to eat red meat and feel that they can do that.
Argentina.
A ver,
In the case of Argentina, I would like to invite Adrian. Adrian, are you there? Adrian Bifaretti. Well, we have heard about Australia. They do international research and they know what international consumers want. In Argentina, I believe IPCVA is the one who should give the answer. I'm going to talk about the theory and regarding the current concerns of Argentinian consumers regarding health, about how healthy the beef is, and nutritional and nutraceutical value. What does the IPCVA know about this? Adrian, I believe you should answer this question.
Está abierto.
Sí, buenos días.
Good morning. Regarding nutritional features, nowadays I would say that this is not one of the main priorities among consumers. So there are some issues related to organoleptic features and elements related to ease of use of Argentine beef. The second part of the question for both panelists is it possible to make a distinction between different pieces of beef, giving nutritional information on the label?
So yeah, we have to provide nutritional information mostly around kilojoules. It's actually on cooked foods more so than raw foods. So there is some nutritional information on raw meat. In cooked meat meals, if you're buying it from a restaurant, we actually have to advertise or tell you how many calories are in that meal as well. And this has become a mandatory thing in Australia. It's also become mandatory more about country of origin. This doesn't relate too much to beef because we don't have We have a very, very small amount of imported beef in our country, but the consumer must be able to tell what percentage of ingredients in a particular product are Australian. So that's mandatory just recently in the last 6 months.
Bueno, en Argentina es bastante similar.
It's quite similar in Argentina. This is not my field of specialty. One thing is what is mandatory and a different thing is what consumers may be demanding. It is not mandatory for fresh beef products. I'm not sure whether, Adrian, you remember this. I'm not sure whether consumers are demanding this for fresh beef. No, they don't. They're not.
Dice,
Here is a question for Silvio and Rodrigo. If a decision has already been made for the first stage, how come that the industry is not aware of the IT changes that are necessary? Where the resolution has been passed, it's based on our work with the industry. Our last meeting took place on June 16, 2018. We got together at the ministry. All the sections of the resolution were read. We collected feedback. Then that was sent to all the organizations participating. There was a 2-week period for them to send their feedback, opinions, doubts. Out of those 40 institutions, only 6 or 7 provided us with an answer on specific technical issues. Many of those technical issues were considered. The most important one was about dentition system used for the grading system, 4 teeth, where the decision was to use 4 teeth. The idea was to start enforcing this on January 1st, 2019. So the whole system has already been discussed. What is still missing? Some technical details. People from the Commercial Control Department are working with you in order to define the minor details related to stamps and implementation. There is nothing carved on stone, but it is important for us to carry out healthy public policy processes. When we send drafts and open up for public comments, we need to get responses in a timely manner, because otherwise, when we present our results, people will say, hey, why are you presenting this? This is the way we're forced to work, and we're very happy to work in this way, in a very open manner. But we all have to get used to the fact that once we say a decision is going to be made, then a decision will be made. If a draft resolution is sent, then with a date when it's going to be published, it is going to be published that date. Some things may be delayed, company systems, the market, packers. And obviously, this goes back and forth. It's different from a law that goes through Congress. But that exercise whereby we work together with the private and the public sector is something we have to improve. Another question for Silvio or Rodrigo. Who are the graders? How are they trained? And how can we ensure quality for producers? Well, graders in Argentina, and we have the people from the Commercial Control Department here, are private. They work for the packers, similar to the Australian system, apparently. I think the agreement has already been signed with the Beef Federation. So the labor union will train graders with the support of the ministry and the ministry technical people. They will be assessed, registered. Once they pass their exam, they will work for the packers, and the government has to audit their work at the different packers. I'm not sure whether I'm making a mistake. I'm looking at you because you're into this. And as to how this value gets to producers, it's time and work. Information has to be available in real time, and producers have to dare choosing where they feel more comfortable, where they feel there is more truth in what's being done. Packers have to provide information quickly in real time. You have to be able to get that information and value packers based on that. We've heard about the Australian experience. There is a return on investment, and we have to reward those who work hard by rewarding packers who do this, and the industry itself will reward quality. That's the challenge we're facing, and all the information that is being generated has to become available as soon as possible in real time for you to be able to make decisions, and this has to be done by the government. 4 or 5 years ago, getting public information would take 6 or 7 months. Today, part of that information is already online in an application which needs further improvement. But the idea is for you to have online information with cameras, scales. There's a lot of technology we're going to use for producers to have real-time information, or maybe information in 24 or 48 hours time, and you're going to choose who you sell to depending on how much value you get. The last question is, it's a suggestion rather question. It would be good for our government to do advertising campaigns showing the work of producers, just like what the Australians are doing. I'm sorry, I got lost. Could you repeat the question? Well, it would be good, as they do in Australia, for the government to do advertising campaigns showing what producers are doing. Fortunately, in Argentina, beyond the current administration, there is the Argentine Beef Promotion Institute, whose goal is to position the whole chain. I can get this out of context, but we have the country we're working to improve the situation of all Argentines, and we have to focus on different priorities with the IPCVA that involves the whole chain. If we want to improve our positioning and advertise what the industry is doing, well, this is the place to do it. Well, thank you very much, Sara, Rodrigo, and Silvio, for the presentations.